Lewis Hamilton delivered one of the comeback drives of his career at the Sao Paulo GP to charge through the field from 10th to clinch a huge win, overtaking Max Verstappen after a fierce battle to cut his rival's title lead. It was a dramatic turnaround on a rollercoaster weekend for Hamilton after suffering qualifying disqualification and engine penalty. He capped his display by defeating Verstappen in another epic wheel-to-wheel battle. Hamilton having soared through the field in the early stages, and Verstappen, after passing Valtteri Bottas for the lead at the start, were head-to-head for much of the race, and the Dutchman angered Hamilton and Mercedes with a questionable defence into turn 4 on lap 48. The stewards deemed no investigation was necessary, but 11 laps later, Hamilton in a faster Mercedes executes that move and passed Verstappen for a much-needed victory at Interlagos. He is now 14 points behind Verstappen with 3 races remaining: Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi. Coming into this weekend, I never thought we'd be able to close the gap like we had today, said Hamilton, who enjoyed huge support from the Brazilian fans. Then these things just kept going against us, but it really shows for everyone: never give up, never ever stop fighting, and that's how I've really approached this weekend. It was Hamilton's first win in 4 races and only the second of his 101 F1 victories that came from lower than 6 on the grid. Toto Wolff called it the most satisfying from his time in charge of Mercedes. Verstappen meanwhile described his second place damage limitation, and while Mercedes had moved further ahead of Red Bull in the team standings with Bottas there, Sergio Perez took 4th, and with that the fastest lap point off Hamilton. And yeah, as we know, these points could be absolutely critical towards the end of the season. So yeah, that could be a big moment in the championship. The Ferraris of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz were 5th and 6th, but there was plenty of drama behind, with Lando Norris suffering a first lap puncture, while Yuki Tsunoda and Lance Stroll collision caused a safety car. Daniel Ricciardo retired from the race on a disappointing and potentially pivotal day for McLaren in their battle against Ferrari, with Norris eventually recovering for a single point behind both of the Alpine cars. But yeah, moving back on to our main story, and the main story of the race really, Hamilton and Verstappen. From last of the grid and then another 5-place penalty, I think it's the hardest weekend I've ever had, said Hamilton, who was 20th for Saturday sprint and then recovering to 5th on the grid after taking another engine drop. But he put all of that behind him to take what David Croft held on commentary as one of the greatest F1 victories of all time. The scene was set for another Verstappen v Hamilton battle early on as he passed Bottas into turn 1, while Hamilton immediately moved up to 6th. A few laps later he was 3rd and was then given the boost of a safety car which wiped out a small buffer that Red Bull were able to build. Perez, who had also overtaken Bottas in lap 1, put up a fight, but soon Hamilton was also ahead of him to ensure the top 2 in the championship, with the top 2 on track. Bottas got back ahead of Perez after pitting during a virtual safety car. After an attempted undercut from Mercedes and an early start from Verstappen, the championship protagonists were back in their head-to-head battle again, with Hamilton's far superior straight-line speed. The Red Bull appeared to be a sitting duck on the straight as the Englishman came charging along lap 48. Hamilton moved around the outside and appeared to get slightly ahead of Verstappen, but the title leader stuck to his line and both drivers ran wide and off the track. Sustained protest followed from Mercedes, but while the incident was noted to the stewards, they ruled that no investigation was necessary. Hamilton then slipped back a touch, but finally broke Verstappen's resistance on lap 59 after getting back into the DRS range, forcing his rival to defend inside turn 1 and then getting a better drive to out of turn 4 to finally get the move, and that was mission complete. Verstappen never looked like he was going to get back in it, and indeed finished over 10 seconds behind Hamilton. So yeah, that kind of just shows how fast Mercedes were this weekend. And yeah, Verstappen only finished just above Bottas, so yeah, it shows how crucial getting away with that incident was. But before I go, let me run you through the final classification. Hamilton in first. What can you say? For me, one of his best ever weekends, just when he really needed it, a sign of true class. And then you got Verstappen, great job from him as well. Well, you could say great job from him. The Mercedes was too fast, but yeah, from where Hamilton was, he'll be disappointed, but probably still the maximum he could do. Bottas in 3rd, just didn't have the pace of Hamilton. I think he will be slightly disappointed not beating Perez, but that was the main thing he did. Perez obviously got unlucky, but yeah, kind of like the rest of them, just didn't really have the pace. And then you've got Leclerc and Sainz. Ferrari, great weekend for them. They're certainly taking a strong hold. Gasly in 7th, probably the maximum he could do today, really, against those Ferraris. They were probably too quick. The Alpines double point score, and I believe that keeps them level with AlphaTauri, so that's the best they could do as well. It kind of just feels inevitable though before AlphaTauri overtake them. And then you've got Norris in 10th after that puncture, really the maximum he can do, but it's not looking good for McLaren with that Ricciardo DNF. And then you've got Vettel, Raikkonen, Russell, Giovinazzi. Yeah, all seem like pretty okay races for them. probably achieving the maximum they could. Tsunoda, once again, it's just not really clicking. And then Latifi, he'd been doing well against Thingy this week, but it just hasn't really been clicking for him in the race. And then Mazepin above Schumacher, so fair enough to him. I know Schumacher did have that incident, and Lance Stroll obviously retired and had that incident with Tsunoda, but probably wasn't his fault, but still far from an ideal weekend for him. Anyway guys, that's it for the video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, leave your thoughts, comments down below, and follow me on Twitter, link description below for daily F1 news, and subscribe to my channel on screen right now, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.